Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers launch of their energy storage chapter. To all of you who are joining today, thank you very much for taking the time out of your diary. We just started 1 minute late, as I can see the participants and attendees rolling in. I think we already have close to 100 people on the webinar, which is great. We do hope you enjoy the content. We've got a great lineup of top industry experts who will be speaking over the next couple of days. I'll be going through the agenda briefly. And please use the opportunity to interact with the panelists and speakers as we go through this. For those of you who aren't common with this platform, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a comments tab if you'd like to put comments as the presenters are going through their presentations. There's also a Q&A tab, so if you have questions, please use this tab to post your questions. We will have a session at the end, as you'll see in the agenda, for about 45 minutes to an hour for the panel to answer questions and respond. Also, if we don't get an opportunity to respond to all your questions, SAIEE will come back to you in due course in the next few days to respond to those. So thank you again. Also like to use the opportunity just to thank the World Bank for sponsoring these webinars, and we hope you enjoy it. And as a last point, I just need to reiterate, if you don't catch some of the talks or you have to drop off, we will be sharing links to the recordings towards the end of the week. Thank you. Today, as you can see, this is a lineup of speakers. As I said before, top energy experts in the field who will be sharing insights in terms of the energy storage sector in South Africa, opportunities, and really the objectives for the launch of the energy storage chapter within South Africa by SAIEE. We have an exciting lineup. We'll be starting today with Mr. SAIEE Gura, who will be doing the welcome address as the president of SAIEE, followed by Chandima Gomez, chair of the energy storage chapter. Will be talking around the why, the objectives for launching the chapter, and some of the opportunities for the industry. And then an exciting presentation by Frederic Vidal on battery storage developments in SA and opportunities. And then last, from 11:45 to 12:45 roughly, we'll have an hour for you to engage with all the panelists, and there'll be a nice panel discussion by Frederic Vidal, Professor Naidu, and Paul Vermeulen. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the president of SAIEE, pardon me, who'd like to do a welcome address. Mrs. SAIEE Gura has been part of the energy industry in South Africa for over 25 years. She started her career as a consultant and was later appointed as a city electrical engineer for East London. With more than 2 decades of experience as an electrical engineer, Ms. SAIEE Gura also holds a number of qualifications, including a Bachelor in Engineering, Electrical and Electronics, a Master's in Business Administration, and Government Certificate of Competency. Currently, she is a Business Development Specialist for Transmission and Distribution and EPC with Actom. She recently launched the SAIEE Women in Energy Engineering chapter, which will strive to promote women interest in champion empowerment programs within the SAIEE broader electrical engineering fraternity. Thank you, Ms. Gura.
Thanks for that introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, I'd like to welcome you all to this Energy Storage Chapter webinar as well as launch. A special welcome to the esteemed panelists and our attendees. It gives me great pleasure indeed to be launching this Energy Storage Chapter for the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers. I'd also like to acknowledge Professor Gomes on his election as the chairperson of the chapter and for taking the lead in establishing this important energy chapter under the guidance of Stabile, who chairs the Power and Energy section under which the Energy Storage chapter resides, as well as Prudence Madiba, who's heading the Technology and Knowledge Leadership Committee. So South Africa has actually seen the rise in battery storage technology. And although it's in its infancy, battery storage is being looked upon to aid in stabilizing the national grids, a clean approach to energy, an association or partner to PV, which in itself has taken off in the recent years in South Africa. Together with energy management systems using artificial intelligence, one can shift the energy usage out of peak times and use battery storage instead, thus reducing the energy bills as well as controlling the peak demands. Eskom has recently launched a RFQ or a tender for a battery energy storage system at the existing Scarf Place substation, which is located within the SAIEE Wind Energy facility. This project will, of course, be followed with much interest as it is South Africa's first large battery storage project. The South African Institute of Electrical Engineers is proud to announce the launch of the Energy Storage Chapter, which will encourage people with similar interests to network, share knowledge, participate, and empower people that want to learn about this technology. The growth in battery storage is also attributed to the requirements to mitigate climate change. We therefore welcome you to the launch of this chapter and the introductory webinar over the next 2 days. I wish the chapter all the success and look forward to engaging with the associated energy storage technologies as well as embracing the energy transition. I thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gura. With that, we'd like to go on to the next presenter, Chandima Gomez. Just as a way of introduction, Chandima Gomez is the current chairman of the SAIEE Energy Storage Chapter. He is a professor of high voltage engineering at the University of Witwatersrand, the chair of Eskom Power Plant Engineering Institute, HVAC, and the director of the Center of Excellence in Protection and Earthing, Renewable Energies, EMI, EMC, Discharge Physics, and several other subjects. Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua. Thank you very much, Sai, for your nice welcome address, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a really happy and pleasant day for me today, because it's historical for our small chapter. We start quite small, just 3 months ago, but we have grown up to an extent that we can be proud of. Now, today I'm not going to talk much about energy storage technologies or systems, because for that we have much expertised panel of speakers. But let me just give you an idea why we started this chapter and what was the background which led to the formation of the chapter. Now, for most of you, energy storage systems remains a battery system. But actually, energy storage is much wider topic than just battery systems. Its time scales can go from minutes region, say for an example, in the case of flywheel energy storage systems, and it can go to years in the case of hydrogen, for an example, stored hydrogen. Then why the recent boom in energy storage as a research and business topic? This is very important for us when we started this chapter, because energy storage is not a new word. It has been there for the last 100 years. But certainly during the last 10 to 20 years, the term became a hot topic in the business and research sector. If I list out the main reasons why and how it is going to be important for South Africa, then let me take with the first one, the rapid development and expansion of renewable energies, which provide fluctuating power. So you know that unlike the main grid system where the power is mostly stabilized and non-fluctuating up to a very good extent, when it comes to the renewable energies, we get quite fluctuating energy supply with respect to time. And the energy storage system therefore became very applicable and important in providing quality power. Then mobile systems, spec- especially vehicles, they need non-fossil fuel energy in the present context. And there we need forms of energy storage systems which can last long, which are not the uh, which are not uh, that uh, compatible at the beginning, but now they're becoming more and more applicable in the field. And then we go to the healthy competition between battery storage systems and hydrogen. So nowadays, we have a very competitive trade-off between the application of battery systems and hydrogen, which is very important for South Africa. Let me go to the last point and talk about that. Then smart, intelligent power grids, they need compact and very effective, efficient energy storage systems to provide energy with quality and optimization. Okay, then the final thing, which is quite important for South Africa, possibilities of converting fossil fuels into storable energy with minimal carbon footprint. You all know that South Africa is rich with coal. So that coal, now a big uh, point that is being debated at the international level as the carbon footprint of burning coal is quite large, very significant for the global warming. But during the last couple of decades, the the gasification, coal gasification, both underground coal gasification and surface mounted coal gasification units are becoming practical. I may not say they are becoming popular at the moment. They will be very popular, but they are becoming feasible, viable as a way of converting the energy stored in coal into syngases during a process of which the 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 whole system will be much more environmental friendly than burning coal. So this will be quite an important point for South Africa as we are rich in coal. The next slide, please. Okay. And now we come to the point why we needed uh, an energy storage chapter for the country. Now we know that already there are various platforms where people interact with the like people, the people who are in the field in various forms of operational activities with respect to energy storage systems. There's a business forum, an association of energy storage systems. Then at the national level, the policymakers are looking for developing new policies where they can integrate energy storage systems into the whole uh, energy scenario, the energy economy of the country. And then SARBS is looking for either adaptation or development of standards on energy storage systems, especially emerging energy storage technologies into the country. then it's very important that our public should have a good idea of what are these energy storage systems, what are their environmental impact, what are the ways that energy storage can upgrade their living standards. These things play a big role because the socio-economic side of energy storage systems actually determines the future of the field. And sorry, there is two public awareness in this case. Actually, the second public awareness should be changed to training of engineers. The engineers should be well prepared in the country for the upcoming technologies, the services that will be essential for the boom, the expansion of the field of energy storage systems, so that the engineer training plays a very big role in preparing the skills of the country to, to, to be ready to get the challenges, to face the challenges and provide something very fruitful, very efficiently, so that this field will blossom in the country as a viable technology. And then comes the very important point, research. Without proper research plan, coordinated research plan, the country cannot go forward in any new field. Although energy storage is not a very new field, the emerging technologies of energy storage systems uh, may be quite new for the South African research scenario. Now, for an example, if I take the hybrid vehicles, where when I say hybrid vehicles, I'm not talking about the fossil fuel and battery storage hybridization. Think about the hydrogen fuel cell and battery powered vehicle, which are combined to have a hybrid hydrogen fuel cell battery powertrain integrated vehicle, which will be the future uh, of mobility in the world, as many people visualize. These things need proper research. Now I come to the energy storage chapter, where our intention is to develop a common platform for all these sectors that work in energy storage system to communicate with each other and have a well coordinated, synchronized pathway for the field to march to the future. Next slide, please. Okay, then say that the general idea, I will go to the specific objectives of our chapter. I will go very briefly into these points. You can read them. Our major objective is to develop a communication platform, as I told you, for researchers, academic, industrialized, and commercial sectors to share the knowledge, data and information, human resources, facilities, and other resources for the betterment of this field. So that is our prime objective in forming this chapter. Then to encourage the publication of national experience at local and international platforms. Actually, South Africa is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to many areas of battery storage systems. And we have seen that while these wealth of information, databases are lying, are rather idling, the opportunities of the world seeing South Africa as an energy hub in this field is slowly diminishing. So we wanted, at the very beginning of the formation of this chapter, to to form some sort of a communication with the people, not only in research, not only the people who are in pure research. We wanted the people who are engaged with the day-to-day operations of energy storage systems to come out of their boxes and see whether they can publish their information and say that this is what South Africa got in their box for the world. Then to organize educational training and awareness programs, actually this is where we start this objective. Today and tomorrow, we will be having uh, a, a quite a compact but very fruitful and informative session to disseminate the knowledge from various sectors to the public. And then to assess current knowledge gaps with SAI members and future skill needs within the South African scientific communities. Actually, this is a part of the previous objective, but we are going to see how we can support the people who are engaged. I'm not using the word research only. I'm talking about all the people who are engaged with this field and see how we can bridge the current gaps in knowledge that we have with the international knowledge. Then to develop and maintain a database on funding and research opportunities for the energy storage community in South Africa. Now, what we have seen during the last few months is that there is a large a volume of sources of funding available at various platforms, at various fora. And most often the South African community do not try to tap these funding sources simply because they do not have a good idea about these opportunities. So we thought of developing our website in such a way that anyone in South Africa who's getting our membership or just writing us and getting a password can get into all these information sources free of charge. Shall we go into the next? And then to support, assist the government on the development and promotion of relevant policies on energy storage. That's very understandable. Then to support SARBs in developing relevant standards. Then to support the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries on the environmental impact of energy storage systems. Now, for an example, if you take UGC, underground UCG, the underground coal gasification, which is an emerging field in South Africa, which is having a huge potential, especially due to the coal deposit profile in many parts of the country. But then this is not really energy storage, but the outcome of such coal gasification will become a part of energy storage systems. We get hydrogen and other syngases. And if we can help the environmental authorities on the impact of these technologies on the surrounding, the true impact, we think that it will be a very worthy cause of our work plan. Then to support the relevant authorities with development of the proposed section 18 of the waste plan for South Africa and recycling these storage systems, especially small scale storage systems like batteries. Then to develop and research a model that can become available to supply party as well as end user for transparency that can assist in optimizing the application of both standalone and uh, co-located systems. So we have not yet decided the mechanism on that, whether we are going to develop it as the chapter or we support a party that would be interested in developing such model. Then the last but not least, the most important thing for SAIEE is that through this chapter, we would like to enhance the image of SAIEE. So by ensuring that the prominent role players of the industry participate in the chapter, so that's where our success lies, as well as booming of the image of SAIEE. Then promoting effective communication with decision makers and maintain focus on their needs to provide a valuable contribution to SAIEE. So these are the specific objectives of this chapter. And for the last 3 months, we have done a lot. Actually, we got a wonderful team so far who have been working exhaustively to achieve these targets, these objectives. And we have a very solid roadmap which we have developed for the next 3 years. Go to the next slide. And this is my team. So we have a very efficient and effective team. I'm sure that most of you know these ladies and gentlemen who have been involved with the field for the last couple of decades in the country. A very good combination of senior, when I say senior with respect to the age, and junior again with respect to the age, but their expertise and capacities no way can be divided into senior and junior, but with age, we have a very good combination. So with that, I'm going to my last slide, which is an open invitation to all of you. Please join our team in the journey towards an energy sufficient South Africa. You can do a lot difference to the country. You can do the change. South Africa need you for the betterment of the country, and we are trying to support that in a small way in making the country energy sufficient. So please drop an email to me. I'm sure that you will get this presentation, and you can contact any of our team members, and please let us know your willingness, your readiness to be a part of our team. You are more than welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chandima, for a great presentation and for driving this initiative. It's certainly a great initiative. We'll now go on to the next presentation, which will be delivered by Frederic Vidal, who's the Senior Power Engineer at the World Bank. Frederic is a Senior Power Engineer at the World Bank. He has over 20 years of experience in power systems planning and operation. He started developing battery storage projects since 2008 for the power utility EDF. Frederic holds a nuclear engineering degrees and a systems optimization master's degree from the Paris School of Mines. Welcome, Frederic.
Thank you, Joshua, and good morning, everyone. So I'm very happy to be here with you, and then the World Bank is, of course, very happy to support this event. First of all, congratulations to SAIEE for the launching of this energy storage chapter. To be a little bit unorthodox, because I know that I talk too much, I will start right off with a few very important points that should have been my concluding remarks, because I know that Joshua, you will cut me after that. First thing, energy storage is a complex concept. This is a thing that I hear a lot from the different non-technical colleagues at the World Bank and in other area. It's complex because it is changing the paradigm of the power sector as we knew it. I'm, as Shandina said, I'm from almost the old school, meaning that I was in engineering school in the last century. And then the first preamble of my training was we cannot store energy, therefore we have to do something else to keep the supply demand balance. So now the storage is coming in, it's changing a little bit all these things. It's adding flexibility, but adding complexity. So first comment would be that it is complex, but it's manageable. Second thing is that energy storage is not a generation asset. It's nice to have it in the IRP as targets, but basically on the technical, economics, policy aspect, it's a new animal that you have to integrate into your system. So basically, it is not a generation asset, but helping a lot the system. Third very important point specific to South Africa and specific to our context now, energy storage can boost the South Africa economic recovery. Today's President Ramaphosa talked about infrastructure development for economic recovery. Energy storage can act both as a vector for economic growth by improving the power reliability for customers, and as a new sector or subsector. And then I hope that we will talk more about this energy storage new subsector. Fourth point is that South Africa is actually one of the best positioned countries to act on all segments of the energy storage value chain, from minerals to manufacture. We'll see that in the slides. And then, of course, all starts with the skills and the technology and the knowledge. And then this is why this energy storage chapter is so important. And it's coming to my last point, maybe a message or a plea to the young research engineers or engineers. Energy storage should be taken differently from the renewable energy 10 years ago. What I mean is that I was working in an OECD country developing renewable energy, and then the natural thinking as a technician or an engineer is to replicate what you know. Basically, that's why most of the research and the work that has been done on intermittency of renewable energy has been kind of replicated to the emerging economies and fragile power systems without looking at the fact that it could actually have a different role. So definitely message to the youngest of us, think out of the box and then think about what energy storage can do in the specific South Africa electricity sector environment, and basically the different uses of energy storage in developed countries are not necessarily working the same way here. So this is my plea to you. So we will go quickly to the presentation. Next, please. So I will talk about trends, not really technology, but much more the trends and market. and then talk about making the case for the storage here in South Africa, but it's not needed. I think we are all convinced. And talked a little bit about Eskom battery storage programs that the World Bank is part of the partners of Eskom on this program. Next. So on technology and trends, first presentation, first visual, next please, is to show that basically we are talking a lot about the dramatic drop of cost of wind and solar technology over the last decade. Well, actually, energy storage cost dropped faster than that. So it was just to show with these arena figures that that for all technologies there has been this increasing drop, and then it is not over. It will continue by 2030 and maybe beyond. So this is creating, of course, a very dynamic market worldwide. And then I see from the different projects here and there that the technologies are trying sometimes to compete with each other. And then some of them have some advantages, some of them have some niches. And then definitely as the market will evolve, there will be different structure of the market, and the different technologies will find their place, hopefully. Next. Thank you. So this is also another way to, also with IRENA, to show you that different technologies will see drop of cost in the next decade. And then obviously this is linked to their development on the market. Lithium batteries have the lion's share now, but definitely the other ones are finding their space. So this is very interesting and important to know, and in particular in the context of South Africa, where on the value chain there will be definitely more emphasis on the technologies where the minerals are in South Africa. Next, please. So this is just to show you how fast this is going. This is old graphics and figures from 2019, and it's already out of date. The 16 gigawatt market in 2019 has now evolved. And then you will see in the next slide that, that it's definitely growing fast. What I just want to show here is that it is evolving differently from the different power systems and different countries in the world. And second thing is that the battery storage technology is modular. And then that's from your garage to grid scale. You have different applications and different type of markets. So, for instance, on the World Bank funded projects in the last decade, the World Bank financed battery storage mostly and exclusively, actually, into mini grids and off-grid systems. The battery storage program that we support in Eskom is the first one that the World Bank has decided to fund on a power system, integrated power system. So since now there have been others, but just to show to you that as SAIEE was saying, it's very nascent, it's very new in South Africa, but it's also very new in the different funding entities to think about battery storage investment. Next, please. So this is to show that basically the technology is moving fast and is now way beyond the test phase. 3 years ago, we were discussing about, all of the market was discussing about this big 100 megawatt battery in South Australia that was built in a record time, and then it was almost as something from a different planet. Now you can see that there is 200 megawatt battery on one site in China. There are different projects that are under development, projects or program. You see that some of them are on one site, some others are on different sites, and then acting together on the same power system, and some others are basically programs that are developing worldwide. So it's very interesting to see this dynamic. Of course, you will notice on this map that there is one continent that has not yet a grid-scale battery storage, but thanks to ESCOM, I think we are catching up. Most important point on this one, basically the COVID aspect is accelerating the whole development of battery storage, and you saw that also with the hydrogen technology. But with green recovery plans that have been developed in all countries, and then the need the climate needs to have energy transition in some emerging economies, it's actually getting the boost on battery storage even more drastic. So we see a trend for larger projects. We see a trend for more viable renewable energy integration and for energy transition. This is basically what we see when we talk about battery storage on the global side. Next, please. So now, why now? Next. Basically, as I said, battery storage can actually be an enabler to be a boost for the post-crisis recovery, and then it is a new vector for growth. All the countries who are developing battery storage are developing it for electric vehicles, for grid-scale power systems, but also are looking at the manufacturing side. India, at the same time that they have India is the best example actually, because they just approved a plan that is developing battery storage for the customers. So for the grid to have batteries, and then for electric vehicles and for households, but at the same time on the manufacturing side. So it's pretty impressive and interesting to see that the same trend in Europe. Basically, all the places where battery storage is developing on upstream and downstream. So this is a way to reindustrialize the system. Here on the visual, what you see is that the solar plus battery is now viable compared to old and new thermal plants. So it's very important to say viable compared to all thermal plants also, because it's making the coal repurposing and the repurposing of all cost inefficient assets now a viable business. So it's also an important trend. Next, please. So this is a fun picture from Irene also, that the engineers, as I said, from the past century will like. Basically, when we were modeling the power systems in the past, supply equals demand, and then doing the risk assessment, we were having a much more simple power system. Now I circled the places where you have energy storage, and the places in orange where you can have some form of storage. You can have also in other places on this, but this means that basically now you have a power system that is supply plus storage equals demand plus storage, and then you will have to deal with this flexibility in order to either integrate more renewable energy, make CO2 savings, make savings on the transmission also, battery storage, and we see that now with ESCOM can allow to have a grid investment deferral. That's very interesting. And then on the customer side, having more resilient systems. Basically, if you're running a vital institution, like, I don't know, a clinic, and then 10 years ago, when there was load shedding in South Africa, the clinics were buying diesel gensets as backup. Tomorrow, I think they will think twice, and maybe they will buy a battery storage to put on their backyard. So that's a kind of flexibility that we are seeing. And then, of course, this is adding, as I said, complexity to the whole management of the system, but it's adding also opportunities. Next, please. So this is maybe one of the most important slides. The World Economic Forum showed that the value chain of battery storage by 2030 could actually drastically increase from all segments. And then what is interesting here is that South Africa can be present on all the segments of the value chain. And then obviously, this is important to know, but it is also important for the skills preparation. As a nuclear engineer, I was trained because we knew that there would be nuclear programs 10 years after. So this means that basically the universities that are now working on mining, for instance, mining engineering, are certainly thinking about doing a new curriculum on mining and value chain creation of batteries, so that their engineers can actually find their space in the mining sector, but maybe downstream on the value chain of batteries. So this is an interesting discussion that I hope we will have in the energy chapter, and then we will see how best to do that and how the other countries did it. Basically, the needs for preparing skills is now, because basically the next 2 years will be critical for the South Africa battery storage development strategy to form. Next, please. So I will go very quickly on the ESCOM battery storage program. I saw that a couple of ESCOM colleagues are connected, so they will be able to add it if I forgot something. The purpose of this program for ESCOM was to basically test a new technology in order to demonstrate that it has an economic value and a technical rationale. And then the idea was to use energy storage in order to enable renewable energy to be integrated better into the grids. So it means that the storage locations has been chosen in a way that they were viable economically, and in a way that that would enable more renewable energy to be connected or stored or integrated. So as it has been said, the first and biggest battery has been is now on the market, and then we expect, we hope that there will be soon a very interesting public project consisting of the SAIEE Wind Plus battery in Western Cape. And by the way, it would be by far the largest battery storage not in South Africa, but in the Africa continent. And then there will be other battery sites that would be also going to the market, hopefully very soon by end 2020, in order to do the same different purpose, or let's say the purpose of integrating renewable energy and doing grid investment deferral. So this is basically the project that ESCOM is undertaking. For the demonstration effect, ESCOM will monitor this very closely. This will be done obviously with entities in South Africa. So like CSIR or other entities. And then this monitoring will be able to give a lot of feedback to the research community in South Africa on how such a program works and how it can be replicated, expanded, scaled up, or done differently. Next, please. So on the expected benefits of this program, of course, some benefits are direct for Eskom to improve the grid reliability, to integrate better wind and solar, to show that the scale-up of wind and solar can be done with energy storage. And then, of course, the IPP office is looking at this very closely to see if the next round of renewable energy tenders will include storage or not, because it will be a very important point. But it can help also to think about other aspects of renewable energy integration, like rooftop solar. Do we put storage or not? And then the CEO of Eskom talked about mini grids in rural areas in order to connect the South African communities that are not yet provided with electricity. So the applications are diverse. There will be a lot of interesting feedback from this project. And moreover, the main point that I said is that this project is by itself an enabler to structure the whole battery storage sector in South Africa. Meaning that in order to do this project, for instance, Eskom had to work with DEF for the environmental impact assessments. So now, thanks to that, this department knows better what is the battery technology, and next battery projects will be streamlined much faster. Eskom worked with different stakeholders on battery storage, like SAIEE, for the grid codes, so that the private sector knows what it takes to connect the battery to the grid. So there have been a lot of work done already, and then this project will help the next, let's say, the next generation of batteries to go faster on the grid. And last but not least, because of the ideal position of South Africa in the continent, definitely there will be a good advantage to develop manufacturing and to develop other segments of battery storage in South Africa. So I will stop there, and then I'm waiting for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederic. That was a very interesting presentation. I think it highlights very clearly the opportunities in Africa and South Africa for battery storage, especially in line with the IRP and the 2030 targets. I'd like now to invite the panel of speakers who will then have a panel discussion and respond to the questions that have been posed. So please do interact. I'd like to also use the opportunity to thank Frederic and the World Bank again for sponsoring these webinars. And I'm glad to report that we have over 200 people attending today. So thank you for joining us, and I'll pass over to the panel now.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Pat Naidu, and I'm going to assist you in moderating the session going forward. Let me start first with the questions that have been posted on the chat box. And I would go first to my colleague from Eskom, Monde Soni. And my colleague Sai Guru would like to take this question live. To the presenter from World Bank, how do the existing installations deal with the issue of storage degradation risk? Is it part of the insurance such that the risk is carried by the original equipment manufacturer, or does the utility take that risk, meaning that they must have a replacement plan and funds in place? Sai Guru?
Prof. Naidu, I'm going to pass it on to Frederic. I will answer the one from Ayanda, because I think this is specific to...
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Frederic, over to you.
Yes, so as ESCOM has designed its program, because it's a new demonstration technology that ESCOM is testing, ESCOM has taken all the insurances in order to ensure that the use of the battery will be taken in account in its sustainability, meaning that what ESCOM wants at the end of the day is an asset that can store the energy on a daily basis for a long period of 20 years. And then they made sure that the supplier of this technology is also providing the guarantees that it's on the long period, it will be replaced if it's used. What ESCOM did before doing that was to do a market sounding and to do basically gain experience. This is why the project matured for so long. Basically, ESCOM went to visit some manufacturers to see how the battery degradation is considered at the research level, and then went to visit some IPPs and some utilities that own batteries to see how it is going after 10 years of use. So ESCOM did all that before preparing their specifications and tendering out. So to short answer to your question is that yes, it is embedded into the supply contract of the battery. After that, ESCOM has done another thing that is pretty interesting and that I have not seen in other large utilities worldwide. Before doing this investment program, ESCOM did in the Rocherville Research Center a test bed of different battery technologies. And now they have more than 3-4 years now of feedback of lithium, vanadium, and different battery technologies. So ESCOM did some work. They did their homework pretty well. So what we do hope is that basically the specifications that they put in order to respond to this sustainability need will be sufficient. But definitely it has been taken in account. Over.
No, thank you, Frederick. Let me expand on that question from Mondi. There's a follow-through question from Matthew Ash of Norton Rose Fulbright. Matthew Ash says to Mondi Sony, this is a very important question for the bankability of the project in the context of a 20-year PPA. 20-year PPA is required to underpin the project financing of a grid-scale battery storage energy system. It seems that the OEMs are not giving equipment warranties beyond 10 years. So there's a limitation there, there's a boundary condition. Technology is proven to operate for twice that time without manifestations of risk. For example, overheating and combustion would be attractive propositions in the renewable energy independent power producer program going forward. Now, projects not able to ensure against degradation poses a challenge. How would we continue to handle these issues? So I think there's a question mark here around bankability, risk, transfer of risk, insurance, replacement, refurbishment. Not necessarily to Frederick. Let me open it up to the panel. Colleagues, anyone in the audience would like to support us? Possibly Matthew Ash from Norton Rose, could you? Oh, you won't be able to communicate with us. Paul Vermeulen, you want to try?
From the South African Energy Storage Association side, you know, what we have seen so far is that when the business case is worked out for an energy storage system, the number of cycles that the battery is good for is usually what is included. So if it's 7,000 cycles, for example, you would probably be limited to a 10-year lifespan based on using the energy storage system once a day. If you intend to use that energy storage system twice a day, let's say for arbitrage, you would do a slightly different business model, but what it would do is half the lifespan because you're going to use it twice as frequently. And generally, the battery manufacturers talk about the number of cycles a battery is good for, And you would ordinarily build that into your business case right from the start, so that you would know, after 10 or 12 years, you're likely to need to replace the battery. And you would take into account that perhaps your inverter would last longer, and include in that costing a replacement of the batteries halfway through.
No, thank you, Paul. Thank you. Frederick?
Yes, I can add to that. First and most important point, start from the need. Basically, the bankability, as many of you may have seen in the latest Lazard battery storage costs estimate. Lazard is an entity that is updating every year the LCOE for battery storage systems. This year, they did a very interesting assessment when they started from the different needs of battery storage systems, and the assess the viability and bankability. What I mean is that for each different case, you will have a different viability scenario and a different use scenario for your battery, and then a different degradation and replacement. So basically, this means that for a project like the ESCOM project, where a supplier of battery is providing the asset and ESCOM operates it, and the O&M is done by the supplier, basically it's a different type of assessment than IPP office, for instance, that will have to include in their 20-year power purchase agreement the fact that a solar plus storage IPP will have to provide the storage service. So what we did, for instance, when I was in the French utility, we said to the IPPs, we don't want to know how you maintain or how you replace your battery. We are focusing on the service of energy storage. We value the service at this cost. So now if it's working for you, you do your math, and if it's working for you, you provide the storage service. If it's not working for you, we will have to do a different arrangement. But what I mean is that if you don't start from the need, basically you cannot chain the rest and assess what is bankable or not on your different storage technology. Over.
No, thank you, Frederick. Thank you to both Paul and Frederick for your inputs there. And I think this is a typical example of what Chairman Gomez had referred to. We need all the industry role players to come together to ensure that we engineer a successful outcome in terms of the future energy security plans. Thank you, colleagues. Let's move on from that question. I'm going to go to Ayanda Noah's question that she's posted, and President SAIEE Guru would respond. Ayanda Noah says, thank you for launching this chapter and for the presentations updating us on the latest and very encouraging developments on battery storage. And this is great news and most welcome progress. President Goro, over to you. SAIEE.
Thank you, Prof. Pat. I just wanted to thank Ayanda on her comments, and I just wanted to say, with the extensive experience that she's got, I hope she does participate in this chapter. So I look forward to actually engaging with her and she with the team of the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, SAIEE. Thank you. I want to move across to a colleague from the De Beers group, Ludwig Riaru. Ludwig has got a few comments and questions that she's posted. The first one is, how does the battery LCC compare to other technologies in terms of risk mitigation of security of supply? Probably is going to go back to Paul and Frederick.
Sorry, Prof, can you rephrase the question a little bit for us? With reference to...
Yeah, when she says LCC, battery LCC, compared to other technologies in terms of risk mitigation of security of supply.
Okay, I'm going to assume she means the levelized cost of energy.
Levelized cost, that's what I would also say. Yeah. Levelized cost.
Okay, so Prof Chandima made a very important comment, I think, when he started off. And it's something that I unfortunately think maybe as South Africans, we're getting a bit confused. An energy storage system is not a primary energy source. So it's very conveniently a tool, if I can put it that way, that can take any energy, primary energy source, store it and release it later. So what's interesting about this is you have the cost of the energy storage system, which you do need to take into account. But when you start to compare it to other dispatchable energy technologies, let's say it's like gas turbine technology, you would then have to include the cost of the energy that you use to charge it. So whatever that energy is, it could be renewable energy, a surplus of renewable energy, solar energy, for example, in the middle of the day, that can come in at a really low cost. You know, typically we're looking at 70 cents per kilowatt hour these days. So your energy storage system to compete against gas would be the levelized cost of the energy storage system plus the cost of that opportunistic cheap energy, if you like. So it's a very dynamic kind of a market to work out. So obviously you would take advantage of the cheapest energy available at the time and store it. So one of the points that I've tried to make recently is also that an energy storage system could just as easily be used to optimize surplus renewable energy as what it could be used to optimize off-peak fossil fuel-based energy, for example. So if you look at things at the moment from the perspective of a distributor on the other side of the Eskom meter, the cheapest energy at the moment to use is off-peak fossil fuel Eskom energy. You know, that's still probably less than 60 cents per kilowatt hour. So if I'm going to operate an energy storage system, I'm actually going to use that off-peak cheap energy at this point in time to optimize my power system. And then in, let's say 5 or 10 years time, when we have a lot more renewables on the grid and we end up with an off-peak period in the middle of the day, I would then start to use that energy to charge up the energy storage system. So it's a balancing act, and it's a very dynamic act that you need to follow. But I think the key issue is that even as we speak, if I try and play an arbitrage game against the Eskom Megaflex tariff, it kind of turns out that any energy storage system that can come in at a cost lower than $320 per kilowatt hour actually makes business sense already. So the business case is dependent on the tariff that applies, number one, and it depends on the capital cost of the plant, and it also depends on the cost of the cheapest energy you can find to charge the system up. So it's a very dynamic and very interesting field, and I believe it's at the point where it's become completely viable already in South Africa. Thanks.
No, thank you, Paul. Well spoken. Thank you, Paul. I just want to build on that question from Azizat Ogabadi. He says, is Eskom also considering other types of storage apart from batteries, like pumped hydro storage or hydrogen fuel cells? Has there been an economic analysis of other storage options? Thank you. So again, you could see the economics starting to come through. I think Paul explained that very carefully. We are playing a balancing game here, using least cost energy resources to give us the required security that we need going forward. Thank you, Paul. Let me go back to Ludwig, and Ludwig's got a question here on climate change. Let me pick that up. Another question is, what is the target CO2 factor that Eskom or South Africa intends to achieve in the next 10 years? Question on carbon emissions. I'm not sure who would like to pick that up. Prof. Gomez or SAIEE, would you like to comment?
I can answer it from a different perspective, if you like.
Please do.
You know, the city of Joburg has a growth and development strategy that it targets to get half of its energy from cleaner sources, I won't say entirely renewable, by 2030. So when we do that analysis and we look at the IRP, if we manage to stick to the IRP, it means that by 2030, 38% of the energy coming in from Eskom will be from renewable sources. So at the moment, I think the Eskom factor is very close to 1 kilogram per kilowatt hour. Obviously, as more and more renewable energy comes into play, so does Eskom's carbon emissions per kilowatt hour drop. So if we look at that, it means that by 2030, if we stick to the IRP, by 2030, we should be somewhere around about 0.6 kilograms per kilowatt hour emissions from Eskom. And I think, I do believe that as a country, we might even be better off, because most of the big metros have got cleaner energy targets that are a little bit better than that 38%. A lot of us are looking at 50% by around about 2030. So from that perspective, as long as we stick to the IRP, I think we can actually make it.
No, thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. Let me switch the conversation a bit. I'm going to go to Mitch Thurston. Mitch says, good day. As a student, what role would I be expected or allowed to play in this chapter? Professor Gomez, something for you to consider.
Okay, thank you, Pat. This is a very, very good question, I may say, that will give a good idea about this chapter to many students that are listening today. But actually, we have a very dynamic roadmap at the moment, which is changing actually. Once you join our team, in a way, you can contribute in proposing new activities to our roadmap and take in the leadership in those activities. Or else you can be a part of the existing or the proposed activities that we have in the roadmap. Now, for an example, you can coordinate the research on battery storage or any energy storage systems in the universities in the country to have a common communication platform. This is one of our objectives, so that you can be the chapter representative who can talk to all these research groups, and then we can develop a certain module where we can have monthly or bi-monthly or once in 3 month seminars or roundtable discussions where all these research groups can propose some activities that can be shared or done in collaboration among the others. So you can be the leader in organizing this event. This is just a few examples. And we have a newsletter, and you can collect articles for this newsletter and take, at the moment we have one of our members taking care of that, but you can help him. You can be his co-partner. If I go into one or two other activities, now, as soon as this Corona situation is over, we are going to plan site visits or technical excursions for our membership. So you can take part in organizing these events. Another one, if I can tell you, we are planning to organize an international conference every 3 years, and you can play a big role in such event. It will be quite a big event, and already we have communicated with several international organizations and the Department of the Science and Innovation as well, DSI, so that you can be a part of that. And one last thing, not last thing, but one more thing, if I can add. Now the business sector here, now you can see that looking at the questions we are getting during this forum, there are various issues that the business sector is having at the moment. For an example, how the environmental factors, the environmental impact is going to affect their business. What would be the carbon footprint that is expected by the government sector? And these things, actually, one at a time, you can take and start a debate on that on a chapter platform. So these things you can coordinate. Now, what I can tell you is that our deputy chair, Mr. Malcolm Lowe, is a student, one of the postgraduate students who is very active and coming up with various targets, activities of the chapter. So we need students to join our chapter and take this forward. Thank you.
No, thank you, Prof. Thank you. And I think you picked up some positive responses. Let me read them to you. One is from Nduzu Kumalo. He says, just to add, for the students, they can play a much bigger role in terms of R&D and testing of new battery storage technologies at universities and propose improvements from designs and maintenance point of view. So academic institutions have a very huge role to play. And one from Mohammed Khartoum. Thank you for coming up with this chapter. My question is, how can students, both undergraduate and postgraduate, benefit from this? And what plan does this unit has for students' contributions? So you could see there's a lot of excitement from our youth out there. We're definitely going into a future new era type scenario for providing our energy. And I think the youth need to come forward and help design those new solutions that we're all going to enjoy going forward. So thank you, colleagues, for that input from the academic sector. Let me switch now to the manufacturing sector, and I'll call my colleague Sai Guru, who's also in the manufacturing space, to lead us in the response. Katleko Mokapi says, does South Africa have standards, or are we perhaps working on standards for disposing or recycling batteries in environmentally friendly ways? Are the OEMs seen to be building capacity to both develop batteries locally and to recycle used batteries where possible? So here's a question for Actom. Sai Guru.
I think at this stage, in terms of South African standards, there are standards together with CGRE that are being developed. So I think once we've got the batteries up and running, our next biggest problem, as has been highlighted, is obviously how do we dispose of these batteries and how we're going to recycle these batteries. So our colleagues, we've got a division basically that deals with batteries, is currently looking into this as well. And it's something that I think we need to collaborate in terms of international people. And I'm sure Frederick has got more exposure to this in terms of what they're actually doing there, because we're still in our infancy here and we're still developing OEMs in fact with this particular capability. And I think there's also a question with regard to, do we have this capability in South Africa to actually build these batteries? And I don't think at this stage, we've actually got local production of batteries. Most of it is imported. And if you look at, in particular, the RFQ that's come from Eskom for Scafley, most of those batteries are being, will be imported from overseas players, because we don't have as such that capability as yet. But it's something that we obviously want to develop and that we are looking into, but it obviously needs a lot of investment and capital outlay. But any of my other colleagues can add as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sai. And I think there's a colleague in the audience who wants to come and help us. Tinta Zwani says, do we have capacity as South Africa to manufacture battery storage equipment and facilities, or are we going to rely on international suppliers? And I think, Tinta, the answer is certainly we do not have the capacity as yet. We are still relying on international suppliers, but we need to develop local capacity and have domestic capability to both manufacture, maintain, operate, and also recycle the batteries going forward, to recover and recycle. So Tinta, definitely an opportunity out there. Frederick, would you like to comment further?
Just to add that that it's a spin. Basically, we discussed that a lot with DPE when they actually took some time to approve the ESCOM project because they wanted more local content in the contracts. We even went to the first battery installed in the US 15 years ago, where the IPP showed us that they had to, at the time, take a South Korean battery because there was no manufacturer in the US at the time. It takes time, but it's going to develop along with the market creation and the market expansion, meaning that, of course, there will be no entity specialized in recycling battery storage that will install in South Africa if there's no market. But the day there will be a market, there will be interested parties to come and get along the value chain. The same way there are now mining companies in South Africa that want to go to the manufacturing of batteries instead of exporting their minerals and then importing the battery again. This will definitely come with the market creation, and then that's where the role of the government is critical to create the environment to create this market. So definitely on recycling, there is more specifically on the ESCOM project, the recycling is integrated in the cost, obviously. But going forward, the different batteries that will be installed in South Africa will definitely have some options in South Africa or in Africa in order to recycle. Last thing on the recycling is that there is innovation everywhere. As engineers, we know that. Right now, some batteries that are used for electric vehicles, instead of being dismantled, they are recycled to be used in the grid scale batteries, because grid scale batteries are requiring a little less efficiency. So when they are not efficient enough to be in the electric vehicles, they are stuck in containers and be used in the grid. So this is another synergy that we can see also, you know, when there will be electric vehicle manufacturing in South Africa, and then recycling will be used to do grid scale batteries, then we close the circle and then we have a market. Over.
No, thank you, Frederick.
Rob, also just a comment or two there as well.
Please do.
The vanadium mining industry in South Africa is also, of course, very, very interested in getting vanadium flow battery technology up and running. Already we are, there are a lot of effort as well to use the nickel that is required within lithium ion technology to beneficiate those minerals for the purpose of that. And I see there's another question also that was raised about the mechanical or the gravity-based energy storage systems, which are very interesting. There's a working version at the moment. It's called the Energy Vault. Now that kind of technology doesn't really require elements in chemistry, but it sort of plays very nicely towards the South African environment, where we have motors and wire ropes and cables and things like that. The concept here is that you take some waste material, for example, a power station's ash dump, and you convert this ash, you convert it into concrete blocks, 35-ton concrete blocks, and the energy storage system effectively builds a tower or a skyscraper type tower out of these blocks to charge it up, and then it releases the energy by taking the blocks and allowing them to fall back towards the earth. And that forms your energy storage system. So it's functionally equivalent to a pumped storage system, but it's one that doesn't use any water. So there are some very interesting new developments with regards to energy storage technologies. And you know, one of the things that the Energy Storage Association guys always say is that it's horses for courses. So these different technologies are going to find a different niche wherever you use them. A lithium ion battery, for example, is perfectly suited to an electric vehicle. It may also be perfectly suited to a containerized solution to make sure that a little factory or a business has backup power when it needs it. The vanadium flow batteries are perhaps a little bit bigger and would require a bit more real estate, but they would perhaps be more suited to something that you would connect at a substation level. So all these different technologies also have a particular niche to fit within the market. And certainly all of these industries, a lot of the members of the association with their different technologies, of course, they're always competing with one another. But as I said, the different technologies can fit in different places, and there's very definitely an interest to get the industry in South Africa going. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. Let me bring my colleague from ESCOM, National Control System Operations, to give us a few comments. Siju Joseph, this one's for you. Comes from Rydal Jardine. Rydal Jardine works for the South African Weather Service. And Rydal has got an interest in current research that ESCOM has undertaken with respect to battery storage systems. Any comments from your side, in particular with your work with respect to the grid code development? Siju Joseph?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. To answer that question, there are two parts of it. The research part of it, we have as Frederick mentioned, there's a big branch of ours that does research on these things, and it's located at Rocheville. So there's a lot of work that goes on there, and they have various types of batteries that they're testing and so on. So that is the one thing that we can look at for them to get involved. To answer your second question regarding from the grid code perspective, we have published we have given it to NERSA, the grid code for the battery, which I'll be talking about tomorrow. And that will go into the NERSA processes, and they should be publishing that pretty soon once they have gone through their processes. Hope that answers your question, Prof.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. And we look forward to your presentation tomorrow. Thank you, colleagues. We've still got quite a few more questions. To my chairperson, are we still okay with time?
Pat, I think we can go until about 12:50. Then the thanking speed starts, because we have to finish at 1 o'clock.
Okay. No, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Let's continue. Let's continue. As Sianda Bozi has got a battery storage value chain question. Could you please comment further on recycling, especially with respect to the ESCOM project? Is recycling considered? Frederick, maybe that's for you.
Yes, recycling is considered. It has been required in the specifications of what ESCOM asked to the battery suppliers. So at the end of the asset time, there will be a recycling of the batteries. Obviously not in South Africa, because there is no recycling facility or dismantling and recycling facility yet. But it has been considered by ESCOM in their thinking. More broadly on recycling, well, you saw the different segments of the value chain. Recycling is usually the last one that we look at, because the asset is basically has a lifetime that is pretty long. So if I have one suggestion it would be, if for those who are interested in this market and in this sector to work on, definitely there will be a lot of work needed on the integration aspect. The recycling aspect is pretty much mature and standard, let's say. So it's not, it will not be where the added value is, but definitely it's one of the aspects to look at. And then again, the batteries, electrochemical batteries at least, it's a pretty well-known technology. It's not a nuclear plant, meaning that the materials that is inside is sometimes hazardous, but definitely it's all manageable within the technology field that we know. So I'm saying that because it has been a lot of questions on this, even inside the World Bank group on the recycling of batteries and the hazards and all that. There is a lot of publications and papers and professional documents now on battery safety and battery recycling. Happy to share that with you. I think the South Africa Energy Storage Association has some of them also. But it's one thing to consider, but it's not the main chunk of the value chain. Let's say it this way. Over.
No, thank you, Frederick. I think South Africans will get quite innovative with recycling, so we will attend to that. There's a question or a comment from an anonymous attendee, most likely from the municipal sector. Should municipalities transition to use less grid energy and increase rooftop solar PV with storage? My response would be certainly yes. Would that be even possible? Certainly yes. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement in the distribution sector, and I think our colleagues in the municipal market space, especially with rooftop solar PV, could really encourage this development. Together with storage, I think they're going to find some real profitable solutions. Paul Vermeulen, what would you like to say from City Power?
Rob, that's a very interesting question because, you know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword that, as I'd mentioned, the city of Joburg has got this target of getting all its, or let's say half of its energy from renewable or cleaner sources by 2030. So here we are, we're in the middle, we're a grid operator. So at the moment, what we do is we take power from Eskom, comes in at a certain price, and all we do is transport it to the end customer, all right? Now, a lot of those end customers are already starting to put PV systems on their roofs. I've got a slide tomorrow that I'll elaborate a little bit more. But to put it in perspective, the systems, we do have a feed-in tariff and we have an application process. So at the moment, the city of Joburg already has 45 megawatts worth of photovoltaics connected to its grid. Unfortunately, we don't own that. It belongs to our customers. So what is actually happening is that our customers have seen that this source of energy is cheaper than buying it from us. But what we need to do for them now is be their backup. Now, that's not an easy job, all right? Because at the moment, what I have to do is I've got to source power from Eskom. On those days, that 45 megawatts, I've got to go and get power from Eskom on the days that the sun is not shining nicely, like a day like today, and provide a backup. And what that does is it starts to increase the cost of buying Eskom power for that purpose. So it makes a lot of sense for an end customer. All of a sudden, he's got this cheaper source of energy, and from a city's point of view, exactly the same argument would apply. But we've got to be mindful that the more we do that, the more expensive the power from Eskom is going to become to back us up. Now, this is where energy storage comes into the picture quite strongly. So as a city, what we're considering at the moment is we almost should be saying, look, if we allow 1 megawatt's worth of photovoltaics to come onto our grid on our side of the Eskom meter, which is going to make our load profile to Eskom look a bit bad and more expensive, we should start insisting that that PV investment also comes with a certain investment in energy storage. And that's the way to keep the load profile nice and flat. So again, it's always economics. You know, what is the cheapest overall? How do you factor that into the business case? And at the moment, as I've mentioned, the energy storage prices are coming to a point where it's becoming realistic to do that. So there's another aspect of energy storage that might not be so good for the local municipality, is that if storage gets so cheap that eventually the PV system plus storage is much cheaper than taking supply from the city, then we've got a real problem, because I no longer have a business anymore then. But I think, and it's also part of what I want to try and explain tomorrow, is that you must never underestimate the value of a grid. You know, a grid is what connects everything together and enables a very efficient energy system to be created. So I get quite annoyed if I go to Brian, people tell me they want to just get off grid, okay? Because the most efficient solution to the energy problem is one where everybody stays on the grid and you are able to contribute to that grid, whether you are a load and you're paying to use the grid as a load, or whether you're a generator and you're also paying in some way to use the grid to get your energy onto the grid and be compensated for that. That, I think, is the first prize. So very interesting from an economic point of view. As a city, we are going to try and get as much renewable energy, cheap renewable energy, onto the system that we can, but we're also going to try and do it in a way that doesn't compromise Eskom to the point that they cannot survive, but it also doesn't drive the Eskom prices through the wall. So the future, I think, is a good energy mix, and there's this transition period where we're going to go from a more carbon-intense energy system to one that is more renewable. And Eskom is certainly going to play its part in this as well. You know, from Eskom's point of view, the one big benefit that they've got for the lousy solar day is that they've got transmission networks that connect the west of the country to the east of the country. So it has to be a really, really bad day for there to be complete cloud cover over the entire country, which is not going to be the case. And if that is the case, if it is cloudy, it's likely to be windy somewhere. So the benefit of Eskom's, what they can bring to the party, is the value of that transmission network to bring the photovoltaics that are in the east coast, to bring the wind that is in the east coast, bring it to Gauteng, and then later in the day, maybe the east coast is cloudy, but the west is fine. So it's a very interesting time, I believe, in the energy environment. And I certainly think that a big enabler is, in fact, energy storage.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. And I concur with you there. I also shared similar sentiment with Andre de Ruyter. I said to him, you've got a trump card in your hand called your database. You've got 6.3 million residential customers, 6.3 million rooftops. If you add 1 kilowatt to each rooftop, imagine the power that you bring to the table. So we've got exciting times ahead of us, and I would like to start wrapping up now. I've got a comment here for Chairman Chandima Gomez. The response from the audience has been phenomenal. Just about every comment or every question, answer, chat posted on the box calls for involvement and participation in the chapter. And everyone wants to know, who do we contact, how do we contact, and how do we get involved? So Prof. Gomez, could you give us a little summary on how everyone could be part of this chapter and start participating and help contribute to finding those solutions? Over to you, Prof. Gomez.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Naidu. Actually, the easiest way is to access our website, which will be on public domain, most probably today by the evening or tomorrow, so that you will find all the contact information there, so you can drop an email. Otherwise, you can drop me an email. I think I have given my email in my presentation, and also I typed somewhere in the Q&A portal, so that once I get your concern, I will reply you, and we can invite you to one of our meetings or the following meeting, and then we can go in developing modalities on how you can contribute. And actually, as I told you earlier, the activities of this very young chapter, we just started 3 months ago. so that our roadmap is being developed. It is very dynamic, so that you can suggest including many activities where we can make into practice or put into practice, because we started 10 activities in our roadmap depending on the manpower that we have at the moment. So as you all get into the system, into the chapter, we can expand the activities. Now, for an example, I have seen in one of the comments, a very important comment, which says that the chapter can help the students in organizing some sort of a research presentation forum where they can showcase their research work. That's wonderful. Definitely we will work on that and make the research students, and not only the students, all the researchers come into the fore and say, this is what we are doing. And also one other idea that is being discussed within small groups of our chapter is that to start some sort of student appreciation system where we will give a certain a certificate and a prize for energy storage related final year projects at the undergraduate level, and also for the master and PhD level research. When you come out with a good research with some good performance, we will appreciate your work by some sort of monetary award or some other form of award and a certificate, for which we have to coordinate with the private sector and get financial assistance for doing such case. But definitely we will go towards that in supporting and encouraging our student community in the country in coming into this field, and also to move forward by fulfilling the needs of the country. So that, as I told you earlier, South Africa needs you, so that come and join us, and you can propose your own ideas which we can put into practice, or you can join the activities that we have already planned. I think that that have explained the question.
No, thank you, Prof. Thank you. And let me also take the opportunity to invite all our attendees to join us as members of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers. We are located in Observatory. You'd find us on the internet, worldwideweb.saiee.org. Come and join us and come and be part of us. You do not necessarily have to be an electrical engineer or of electrical descent. All South Africans are welcome, and we can find a space for you in our many chapters, societies, sections, and committees. Come and join us and be part of the conversation in terms of serving South Africa and in terms of providing energy security to fellow South Africans and onto the economy. Let me take this opportunity to start wrapping up. I think we've exhausted a lot of the questions and comments, and our panelists have done very well. Let me firstly say thank you to all our panelists and all our members for your contribution this morning. We continue to look forward to your detailed presentations tomorrow, and we welcome all attendees to join us at the session tomorrow, whereby we'll go a little bit deeper into each of the technical aspects of the energy storage chapter. In my summary concluding comments, I would like to reflect on COVID-19. COVID-19 has given us all a new normal. And I think going forward, climate change and global warming is going to strengthen and reinforce the new normal that we've already been subjected to. And again, we are going to need to find new solutions to provide for our energy security, to provide for energy storage, to provide for energy sustainability. And I think those new solutions would need to come from all the relevant participants in the energy sector, all the relevant stakeholders in the energy sector, and from the young generation coming through, especially our student community. We would need to build upon the Industrial Revolution 1, Industrial Revolution 2, Industrial Revolution 3, and continue to grow into Industrial Revolution 4.0. And you're going to find that we are going to be having to find solutions that are not driven by physical quantities, but by virtual information-based quantities. And we're going to have to find those solutions, process those solutions, and bring forward the various markets that are going to help us to integrate the chemical world, the physical world, the structural world with the economic world and the sustainable world. My colleague from ESCOM, Siju Joseph, will talk a lot about the ancillary services market and how that platform is going to become the main platform for managing supply, demand, and energy security going forward. So let me take the opportunity of saying thank you, and I'm going to pass you back to Chairman Gomez to say a few words, and then on to President SAIEE Guru to also say a few words. So over to Chandima Gomez, Chairman, say a few concluding words, and we'll start to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Naidu. It was a wonderful wrapping up presentation. And thank you all of you for your wonderful support. Before thanking our participants, I would like to tell, I would like to give an explanation to one of the questions that we did not take up. One question asked was that whether we are planning to take this chapter activities beyond South Africa. What I can say is yes. Why not? Because South Africa has a very good record of providing the leadership to the whole Africa. If we can't go beyond Africa to the international arena, at least I'm sure that we are going to serve the whole African continent, apart from giving our priorities or priority focus to South Africa. So what are the ways that we can support the African continent? One way is that most of our seminars and training programs that we have planned for future are open sessions. So anybody from Africa can join. You can register and just get the fruits out of our efforts. And the second thing is that, as I told you in one of my presentations, we are going to plan an international conference every 3 years. And definitely we are going to give the priority to the African continent. And probably if the financial status permits, if we can find sponsors, we are going to sponsor at least a few participants from other African countries to come and attend these conferences. And another one I can say is that if there are, I'm sure that there are several students from other African countries attending the event today. If you can initiate a process of coordinating like institutes or the counterparts of SAIEE in your respective countries, then you're warmly welcome to bridge the gap between that institute and our institute with your affiliations and your connections, so that we will expand our platform, our communication network to whole Africa, so that everything what we do under the chapter will be beneficial to the entire African continent. So this is something that I wanted to tell all of you, so that while giving our focus and our priority to South Africa, we are not forgetting the rest of Africa. And said that, I would like to thank all my team. This event was not just popped up. There was exhaustive work to be that needed to be done during the last month by a team which is very committed. I may say that even I was not expecting that much of work done by all my team members. I'm really proud of them. Uh, if I tell the names, it will be a long list, but let me just mention few of them. Jordine, who took the leadership in organizing this event, then Tracy, then Melissa, Joshua. Sai gave good support as the head, then Sibele, Prudence, then Prof. Pat Naidu, all these people, and I should specially mention another young gentleman, Mr. Malcolm Lowe. I told you that he is one of the most active members of our team, one of the postgraduate students. Thank you very much, Malcolm, for your support. So that the list is quite long, and I'm sorry that if I have not mentioned your name, but your support is so much appreciated. And thank you very much, all of you, for attending this event. And then I would like to hand over the forum to the mic to Sai to move forward from here on.
Thank you, Prof. Gomez and Prof. Pat. I don't want to take much time as we're almost at the end of this. So before I hand back to Joshua, I just want to once again congratulate the chapter on the successful launch of the webinar, as well as the chapter. And as you can see, there's such a huge interest in this. So I look forward actually to all your participation. And I think in terms of the students, it's come forward quite a bit and quite strongly that we'll definitely involve the students. We do see area in which we can involve them. And there was a lot of expertise that was shared around this. And like the previous speakers have said, it doesn't have to be an electrical engineer. I saw a comment as well as about including the chemical engineers. So we definitely would include everyone. And please do participate. You've got all these guys' contact details, but it is also on our website. So if you need any assistance, we'll be able to assist you in terms of getting in touch with Prof. Gomes and his team. So once again, from my side, I'd just like to thank the chairperson as well as the team in organizing this. And we definitely look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. This was just a teaser. I think the in-depth discussions are actually tomorrow. So hope to see you all tomorrow, and we look forward to interacting with you again tomorrow. Thank you. Over to you, Joshua.
Thank you very much, Sai, and to all the panelists for contributing today. It's been a great session, and it's encouraging to see all the interactions. So again, thanks to the attendees. Again, a word of thanks to the sponsor, World Bank. Just to remind you all of the program tomorrow, we're going to start at 11 o'clock sharp and run till about 1:30. As you can see, some really interesting topics. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone on the session tomorrow. Thank you very much, and goodbye to you all.